The jungle night was alive with chanting priests, the rasp of jaguars, and the glow of torches casting shadows on the towering pyramids of the Maya. Their civilization is often remembered for calendars, astronomy, and architecture, yet beneath that brilliance lay a darker truth. To them, creation was born from divine sexual acts and cosmic sacrifice, a cycle that had to be renewed with the most powerful substances they knew, blood and semen. These were not mere fluids but sacred essences, the fuel of gods and mankind alike. Rituals demanded the body itself serve as an altar, where sacred offerings were drawn through acts of auto-sacrifice. A young nobleman, purified through fasting and hallucinogens, would ascend the pyramid in exaltation, not fear. Before the community, armed with stingray spines and ropes lined with thorns, he pierced his own flesh to unleash the divine seed of life. His blood-soaked bark paper, burned to smoke, rose to the heavens, feeding gods so the sun, rain, and corn would endure. Among the Maya, bloodletting was not a fringe ritual but the cornerstone of cosmology. Kings and queens themselves pierced their bodies to feed the gods, their agony becoming the price of balance between heaven and earth. Art from Yaxchilan shows rulers like Shield Jaguar and Lady Zok performing these acts, with men piercing their genitals and women offering blood from the tongue, each act tied to the sacred duty of sustaining the cosmos. A queen's sacrifice was both political and spiritual, her blood affirming divine lineage while visions born of pain revealed messages from gods and ancestors. Sexuality itself was never divorced from ritual. The sacred 260-day calendar dictated when intercourse should occur, aligning conception with auspicious dates. Temples adorned with phallic imagery suggest fertility rites and even ritual sex, not as debasement but as worship. In this world, the body was both altar and instrument, a bridge between mortal life and divine power, where flesh and spirit were bound in cycles of creation and sacrifice. For the Maya, sexuality was both sacred power and dangerous pollution. Adultery was punished with death, seen as a cosmic threat that endangered the entire community. Ritual purity extended to all sexual acts, and while Spanish chroniclers condemn them as sexually deviant, Mayan art suggests a far more complex, fluid understanding of desire, where certain practices may have been tolerated in ritual life. Yet no matter the form, every act was weighed against divine balance. When blood from rulers was not enough, the gods demanded more. Human sacrifice became the most potent offering, a repayment of the cosmic debt owed to deities who had given their own essence to create the world. War itself was fought not for land, but for captives to be sacrificed. Stripped, painted blue, and paraded in ritual ball games, noble prisoners were dragged to the pyramid summit. There, in a frenzy of drums and chants, priests bent them over the altar and tore out their still-beating hearts, lifting them to the sun before the lifeless bodies tumbled down blood-soaked steps. The Maya believed sacrifice was more than death, it was transformation. Consuming the flesh of a slain enemy absorbed his strength, making ritual cannibalism a sacred communion. Blood, semen, maize, and tree sap were bound in the same continuum of life, creation, and sacrifice. Art even depicts men in intercourse with goddesses at the moment of their own death, a fusion of sex and destruction where victims became divine in their final agony. Women and children too were offered, with children drowned in cenotes as gifts to the rain god Chalk and women decapitated or dismembered to mirror mythic cycles. To the Maya, these were not acts of cruelty but cosmic necessity, sustaining a fragile universe in constant peril. Yet this very system was a double-edged blade. Kings were measured not by governance but by blood, their legitimacy tied to captives and rituals. Failure meant divine rejection, pushing rulers into endless wars for sacrificial victims. What began as sacred duty escalated into a cycle of violence that may have sown the seeds of the Maya's collapse. As the classic Maya period wore on, sacrifice grew in scale and brutality. Skeletons from later graves show signs of hasty killings, evidence of desperation in a society strained by drought, deforestation, overpopulation, and endless wars. The answer to crisis was always more blood, more offerings, yet the gods remained silent. Commoners, too, bore this burden, giving tribute, labor, and sometimes their own lives. Mass graves reveal that not only captives but ordinary men, women, and children became victims when harvests failed and faith cracked. The social contract collapsed, the gods consumed, but the people starved. One by one, the great cities of the southern lowlands were abandoned, monuments ceased, and temples fell silent as jungle reclaimed them. Survivors migrated north, but the system of divine kingship, built on sacrifice, imploded under its own contradictions. By the time the Spanish arrived, the Maya world was already fractured, its sacred knowledge largely erased by conquest and flames. Yet the echoes endure, etched in ruins and whispered in living traditions, a haunting testament to a civilization sustained and undone by blood. The worldview of sacrifice did not vanish with conquest but fused with Catholicism, creating a unique Mesoamerican spirituality. The Maya mapped saints onto their old gods, saw the cross as the world tree, and embraced Christ as a divine blood giver. In San Juan Camula, churches blend pine needles, copal incense, candles, and even chicken sacrifice with Catholic symbols. Healers use liquor and rituals to heal soul loss, echoing ancient shamanistic visions once reached through bloodletting. The sacred calendar is still kept, ruins remain sacred, and ancestral spirits are honored. Yet this continuity carries scars. Centuries of conquest, oppression, and genocide culminated in the Guatemalan Civil War, where over 200,000 Maya were killed, villages destroyed, and women assaulted under the same rhetoric that once justified conquest. Ancient sacrifice sought cosmic balance, but modern violence served political and economic power. Despite this, millions of Maya survive today, reclaiming languages, protecting lands, and reviving traditions. Their resilience is both cultural and spiritual, echoing defiance across centuries as they stand against exploitation with the strength of their ancestors. The worldview that demanded blood and sacrifice is gone, yet its shadow endures. Modern Maya still plant sacred maize, tell the Popol Vuh, and honor ancestral spirits at ancient ruins, blending Catholic symbols with their own cosmic traditions. Their past is not a lurid tale but a profound system where brutality and brilliance coexisted. For the Maya, the highest good was not personal survival but maintaining cosmic balance. Acts we call barbaric human sacrifice, ritual bloodletting were, for them, sacred duties that sustained the universe. This faith fueled astonishing achievements: a writing system, mathematics with zero, monumental pyramids aligned to the stars, and art that gave form to the divine. Their cities were sacred geographies, their monuments living theaters of cosmic drama. To judge them solely by our values is to miss their truth. Their legacy forces us to confront that civilization is never simply savage or enlightened, but a tapestry of contradictions. And perhaps, in our own blood-soaked modern world, we have not escaped sacrifice, we have only transformed it. The Maya worldview reminds us that the human capacity for creation and destruction, for sublime devotion and terrifying violence, is universal, not confined to a savage past. Their story is both mirror and warning, a civilization unified by cosmic duty that produced wonders, yet demanded terrible blood. Their ruins speak of a people who saw the body as a microcosm of the universe, head as heaven, heart as sun, blood as sacred rivers, sexual organs as the divine source of creation. To them, ritual upon the body was ritual upon the cosmos itself. Sacrifice was not symbolic but literal truth, and pain a portal into divine communion. The jungle, caves, cenotes, jaguars, and ceiba trees were all alive, demanding ritual interaction. To endure agony was to transcend self, to hear the language of a sentient cosmos. This worldview was sustained by trance, ecstasy, and hallucinogens, tools to dissolve barriers between flesh and spirit. In daring to see through their eyes, we glimpse how belief can build civilizations, but also consume them. The Maya used powerful hallucinogens: balch, psilocybin mushrooms, toad venom, wild tobacco, and morning glory seeds, not for pleasure but as sacred medicines. Combined with fasting, chanting, and torchlit rituals, these substances dissolved the self and prepared the mind for the final key, pain. In this altered state, agony was no longer mere sensation but the voice of gods, the touch of ancestors, the surge of cosmic power. The scream of sacrifice was the tearing of the veil between worlds, proof of divine communion. Kings who bled themselves in public ecstasy demonstrated their authority not in words but in wounds, their power carved into their flesh. Yet this worldview extended beyond the elite. Common farmers, guided by the same 260-day calendar, saw their planting as cosmic duty, offering drops of blood with maize seeds and prayers with copal incense. Sexuality, too, was sacred yet perilous semen, a vessel of life force. Celibacy demanded before war, abstinence before rituals. Women's bodies, like men's, were vessels of power, their fertility revered yet bound by codes of ritual purity. For Maya women, menstruation was a liminal state, linking them to the moon goddess Ixchel, whose powers spanned fertility and destruction. Menstrual blood was potent, demanding seclusion so as not to disrupt warriors or priests in preparation for ritual. Childbirth was the ultimate sacrifice, a battlefield of its own. Women who died giving life were honored like fallen warriors, their spirits believed to rise with the sun. The home itself was sacred, a hut of wattle and daub became a cosmos in miniature. The hearth was its axis, ancestors buried beneath the floor tied the living to the dead, ensuring guidance and protection. Yet this intimacy with the sacred brought constant unease. Illness, failed harvests, or difficult births were not chance but signs of imbalance or divine anger. Daily tasks carried ritual weight, every action vulnerable to spiritual misstep. Amulets, charms, and offerings shielded against unseen forces. For ordinary Maya, life was not just survival of body but survival of spirit, lived on a knife's edge beneath gods who created and devoured with equal ferocity.